How's it going, Gananakwe? So, as promised, we were going to discuss integers today, because as we know, negative numbers exist, as do positive numbers, and we have to learn how to add and subtract them, and multiply and divide them, and that's super important, especially looking ahead grade 8, grade 9, and grade 10 and beyond. This is a concept we got to be able to master. So, I've got my lovely teaching assistant Jack here. Bonjour, Lou. And Molly is just over there too. And this is the shadiest place I could find on what is the hottest day of the year so far. And tomorrow is going to be even hotter. Tomorrow's Thursday. Hi, Jack. Yeah. So I'm just going to grab a drink of water before we get started. Can't have it. Oh, yeah. That water's kind of warm. I think I'm going to add some ice to it. If I had to guess, I'd say the water's about 8 degrees. Water. You know that's going to fall down by the end of this lesson, don't you guys? I'm going to say that the water is plus 8 degrees. I'm going to add some ice to it. I'm going to make it cold. I want you guys to think of each little block of ice here, my shaker, as a single unit. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, see? This is 3. I'm going to add 3 pieces of ice to it. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to shake it up. So what I've done, let that sit a minute, is I've added -3, right? You want to think of ice as cold. We've added cold. Add -3. That's going to give us better. That's going to give us 5 degrees. Plus 5. So I had plus 8, I added 3 pieces of ice, -3, and now I'm left with plus 5. This is so I can, obviously the ice isn't like a -1. It's more about getting the concept, the idea that if you add cold to something, you are dropping its temperature. So if you add ice to something, you drop that temperature. Okay, similarly, what temperature is the water now? Temperature is plus 5 degrees. If I take away the ice that I put in there, and take away that ice, what's going to happen? Well, if I take away the cold, the temperature's going to go up. If I take away, and of course these ice cubes have melted because it's scorching. But here's 1. Here you go, Jack. Molly, rather. 2. She's like, that's a terrible treat. 2 for Jack, and the third one has already melted. But if I take away 3 colds, the temperature is going to go back up. We'd end up at plus 8 again. So when we're adding and subtracting integers, you want to think of the cold value as being a piece of ice. That's what I always do. That's how I learned, and that's how it explained it to me when I'm adding and subtracting. So let's start. We started with a positive number here, positive 8 plus -3. We ended up with positive 5. And then if we add positive 5 and we take away the ice, we take away the -3, we're actually going up. So plus 5 minus -3 is actually plus 8. It makes the temperature go up. Another way to think about that in grade 8, so you guys will remember this from last year maybe, is that as a kid I used to also do this. I just turn this into one big plus sign, just to remind myself that negative, and I turn the bracket into a plus sign. The bracket is there. It's there to remind us that it's a separate dollar store dry erase. That it's separate from the actual number itself. The number is -3. The operation is subtraction. That's what you're doing to that -3 is we're subtracting it. That's why we've got the little parenthèse around it. Okay, so now we've started out with some negative numbers. So we started with positive numbers, what if we were to take, so here's the rest of my, I've got about 5-10 pieces of ice in here. Let's add some water into this highly thermo-insulated cup purchased for me by my good friend and brother-in-law, Mike Bishop. Oh, there are 5, 10, there's a lot of ice in here. And it's a much smaller surface area, so it's going to get colder much quicker, more quickly, much quicker. Whew! That's cold. That's delicious. Can you guys see the dogs? They're right there. I think they're off camera, but they're right next to me, looking at me. When I went, woo! Jack went. That is super cool. I'm going to say that water right there is -5. Okay? What's going to happen if I take out 3 of those cubes? If I subtract, let's just try it again, -3 of those cubes. Keep in mind that this number is below 0 because that's a much cooler cup of water, right? Take 3 cubes out. Hate to do this because it's so good. I actually took 4 cubes out. So we're gonna make it. Oh no, I did take out 4. We're gonna make it official. What do we say? 4. Boom. Now that's cold, but it's gone up a bit because we took away 4 cubes of ice. So what do we do here? We said we had 5 plus 5. We took away 3 colds, and we got +8. 5 minus -3 is +8. So -4 minus -4 is going to leave us with, if you guessed or answered, -1. That's right. That's what I'd say. That's what I'd say that drink is. It's now sitting there at -1. Now, I'm going to run inside. The dogs are going to look after you guys while I get more ice cubes because we're going to dump a whole bunch in. But I'm going to go in and I'm going to say I'm going to get 10 more ice cubes. I made this tray of ice cubes last night for this lesson. So I'm going to add -10 colds. I'm going to put in 10 ice cubes. And I want you guys to tell me while I'm gone. And don't take your phones or anything, or else Jack and Molly will know. I'm going to run in and grab 10 ice cubes and wonder if you guys can tell me what number is going to be right there. Okay, so type -1 plus, if I add -10 ice cubes, what's going to happen? Be right back. Cool, do that. Back. We're back. The dogs are like, what is going on? All right, good. What? These. So add 10 cubes of ice. I added 10, 10 colds. Another way to put it, added 10 colds. What's the water going to be at? Let's taste it. Oh, that's good. That's good. Beauty. So if I have -1 and I add 10 colds, I added 10 ice cubes, or 10 negative digits, I'm going to end up with -11. So if I have a negative number and I'm adding another negative number, I'm driving it even colder. That's the same is true as if I have a positive number and I add a negative number, I'm driving it colder. Right? So it doesn't necessarily mean In a minute, we'll talk about multiplication and division. Doesn't mean that a negative plus a negative equals a positive, because the negative number may be so far down that, for example, here, negative 5 minus minus 4, that gave us a negative. But if this was minus 5 minus 6, it would actually be positive 1. So there are no rules or little tricks that we can use. We have to sort of perceive more, understand more that when we're adding cold to something, we are making whatever solution it is colder, or whatever mixture in this case, right? Ice and water, call it a mixture. Even though eventually it'll just become a solution, right? I paid attention to some of your science. So, that's the deal for adding and subtracting integers. Now, let's have a look at multiplying and dividing integers. I should have got a whiteboard wet for this, but I didn't. Now there is a trick to these. Oh man, this is where I wish Kristen Cleese, who always cleans the chalkboard for us, is here. Oh, Stamper Magani. Okay, bear with me. You know how to sit this. It's hot. So when we're multiplying and dividing integers, there is kind of a rule that we can apply. And I'll show it to you. So first of all, we can make a little box. This. Is that it? Yeah, sweet. Okay. So to remember the rule goes as follows. So a positive times a positive, right? Or a positive divided by a positive is going to leave us with a positive product. Okay? Positive times a negative, that's going to leave us with a negative product. Okay? A negative times a positive, that's going to be negative as well. And a negative times a negative, would you believe it, is going to be a positive. Okay? So whenever we're multiplying numbers, again, a positive times, if it's basically, it's if they're the same, positive times a positive, negative times a negative, positive. If they're different, the answer is always going to be negative. Okay? Now we're going to go back to our times tables, and again, this is why we start this at the start of the year. It's so important to get this because with times tables form like the basis of our elementary education, which we use and take on to secondary education. Hey, Jack. Okay. So just some easier stuff to start with, or some more simple to try. Positive 3 times positive 2. Okay. Positive times a positive. 3 times 2 is 6. Alright? Let's say we had positive 3 times negative 2. Positive times a negative, that's going to give us negative 6. Okay? Let's do 49, bigger number, divided by negative 7. 49, Molly, like in the shot. 49, this is the dog I was talking about that reminds in the second chapter of Mice and Men, that old dog that staggers into the bunkhouse. Hey, Mick. 49 divided by negative 7. So that's a positive divided by a negative. It's going to give us a negative number. 49 divided by negative 7 is Reza. Yeah. Negative 7. Positive divided by a negative equals negative. Kind of a weird one. I don't know why we would. Here we go. 81. Negative 81 divided by negative 9. So I'll put this one in brackets. Again, it's good to keep the brackets on so we don't confuse the operation with the actual number itself. Okay, Molly's going to eat some dirt on camera for us. That's great. Negative 81 divided by negative 9. This first is going to give us what? A positive. So we're going to get a positive number when we divide two negatives. It sounds weird, but it's true. So 81 divided by 9 is the same as negative 81 divided by negative 9. the answer is going to be positive 9, or just 9. Okay? So, I'm going to sip of that water. It's not negative 10 anymore, or negative 11. Is that what we call it? Negative 1, what did I have on that whiteboard? Negative 1 plus minus 10. Do we have negative 11 as the answer? Why do I think that we wrote negative 10 as the answer? And now we can't check. I'll go back on the video and look. Anyway, negative 1 plus minus 10 should be negative 11. Hopefully that's what I had on there. Especially better. Okay. So once more to review. Positive times a positive equals a positive. Positive times a negative, or divided by a negative, equals a negative. Another way to think of it, if they're both the same, they're going to be positive. If they're different, they're going to be negative. Okay, that's really important for when we do up in grade 12 in functions, but way before that, just balancing equations, which is the first step that we start to a little bit in grade 8 and quite a bit in grade 9. A lot in grade 9, actually. So that's why it's important to get this concept down now before we go. Okay, so I am going to go back and look and see if I actually added minus 1 plus minus 10 properly. Correct answer is minus 11. But I can't remember if I said that or not. You guys are all screaming at the TV saying, you did, Brown, or no, you didn't. We've been thinking about that for 5 minutes. What I'm going to do is post this video into the math tab, okay? And then I'm going to put in some questions, just some like warm-up questions about addition, adding and subtracting integers, and multiplying and dividing integers. And then we'll take them up again on Friday. Of course, if you have questions before, please email me. I'm happy to explain anytime. But if you want to do like the live chat thing, that's going on Friday at 1 o'clock. We'll discuss of mice and men, and we'll talk about integers too. Okay? All right. Good to go. Stay cool again in Aquay. And remember, tomorrow's going to be the hottest day. So stay cool and stay in the shade. Mwah. Talk to you guys soon.